on.
I Love Myself Fix presents Coming Into Grace, a new podcast hosted by mother and son duo at Courtney's Fix and at Osh's Fix. And today we're joined by David Townsend. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Where are you right now?
I'm in San Mateo, California.
San Mateo, California. And how long have you lived in San Mateo, California?
11 years.
11 years. And what is it that you do? What do you do for your occupation?
Retired physician, internist pathologist.
And what does that mean for those of us who are listening who don't know?
Internist is a person that treats people primarily in hospitals, but it's kind of changed over the years. And now internists work with people outside the hospital also. We're like the general cog in a hospital. We're the ones that see you after the emergency room if you're admitted, and we make decisions on A, can we just treat you ourselves, or B, do you need a specialist, like maybe a heart specialist or a brain specialist. As for the pathology side, everything that comes out of your body that's a lab test, whether it be a biopsy, whether it be, unfortunately, an autopsy at cases, or a blood test, a pathologist looks at that. We run all the labs. And so we kind of have to know a little bit about what everybody's doing in order to run those tests. Case in point, during this coronavirus thing, Abbott Labs is trying to work up a really fast test, which is a little scary for me because a test like that should never be quickly manufactured. There's no such thing as a perfect test. So, and all tests have what we call false negatives and false positives. And that's the thing that concerns me about the test. Because there's a concept called sensitivity. What that means is if that disease is present, the test will be positive. And you'd like to have your test to have something high like that. And I'm sure Abbott's is that. But there's also a term called specificity, which is when it is negative or positive, is it right? And that's the part that I'm a little concerned about with this fast test.
Oh, shit. That makes sense.
Right.
Explained very well.
Right.
Very well.
So in this, well, one, I'm just gonna, and maybe it's not fair to ask, but I'm going to. No, I'm not actually.
Go ahead.
Well, and we're not holding you to be in Notre Dame or anything, but what do you think is going to happen? So now that we've experienced this shelter in place, which we as the United States have not experienced in 80 years or something. So as we are where we are in this period of unknown, and what do you believe could potentially happen again in the next 6 months?
Well, actually, I've been asked this so many times that it's not known, obviously, but I haven't been wrong yet. And I told many of my friends and associates that this virus is not going to go away. It is highly communicable, which means that it's going to permeate every corner of the globe. So trying to run and hide from this thing, I thought even at the beginning was not probably a wise move. And I've kind of looked at it as the mortality rate is running about 5% right now. And I don't think you can escape that 5%. So 5% of the population of the world could potentially die from this. And if you look at this one way or another, you could get it all over quickly and not shelter in place, right? And have that 5% go, or you could spread it out, is what they're doing. My thought of this virus is that it's going to work its way around the world, kind of like influenza. It's just going to keep circling the globe. And if it doesn't get you this pass, it's going to get you the next pass. Now we're starting to swing into its active period. As we go into the fall, it's going to come back again in pretty good numbers. So this running and hiding, it is a plan. And I think there's more legal and political ramifications to that than anything. I'm scared to think about the financial implications of it because I think somebody's got an ulterior plan in there, but that's just me being an amateur conspiracy theorist. But realistically, I think the survivors of this will not have problems with this in the future, but you had to survive it. I also think something else, and this is kind of more just three people talking. If they bring out a vaccine within this year, I'd probably rather get infected with the virus because vaccines do have side effects and they take a lot of tinkering to perfect. And for all the vaccines that we have now, we've had many, many years to tinker with them. And so they're pretty safe. But this is a whole new, situation. And virology, the study of viruses, is something that was almost dead until HIV. And then it's kind of been ramped back up, but it's still nowhere where it was, say 20 years ago. So that's my thought. I think in the end, we're going to just have to kind of deal with the aftermath. It's almost like a world war. And there's just a certain number of people that just aren't going to make this, and it's a calling. I mean, it's kind of biblical to me, and I thought that at the beginning. And everybody thought I was being pretty crass and evil and this and that because I was just saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. I mean, and then you don't know that, okay, So
the thing that has been interesting to me was I thought when, the first information came out that I thought the virus was going to rest somewhere around probably 1.5% to 2%. But then as I went and looked at the numbers, it is a consistent good 5%. And
it started out at like 3.5%. And it stayed about 3.5% for a bit. And then it started, well, you had a little bit of idiocy in some young people who decided to go on spring break and do stuff like that. And then it started kind of sneaking into certain populations. And that's when the numbers are going to mount. And then if you kind of notice, the population density of a certain area has a lot to do with this. I mean, obviously, you can't shelter in place if you're in an apartment building in New York City.
Right.
Florida is kind of interesting. I can't figure that out because there's a lot of open space. And
right.
I mean, what are they doing down there?
Right. A lot of open space and a lot of heat when they say that this virus doesn't like the heat.
Yeah, but that was a guess. That was a guess because it really kind of ramped up in the wintertime. And so the whole sheltering in place was a guess that, okay, when it gets hot, the virus won't be transmitted that much. I think a more accurate statement would be when it gets hot, people are going to go outside. And there's a thing called an inoculum. An inoculum is how much of this do you need to get exposed to actually get the disease? So an inoculum in an enclosed room like you two, and you guys cough all over each other, is a lot more likely to be transmitted than if you two are sitting out in an open field. And so I think this is acting a little bit like influenza in that when people are enclosed, there's more like chance to transmit this. But when people are outside, less likely so. And so that may be what got people to believe that when it got hot, it's going to get better. But I think when it gets warm, people have more chance to be outside. And therefore, it's harder to transmit. So I don't think the temperature has much to do with it. And that was my thought.
Got it. Okay. How's it been for you emotionally during this time?
Personally, I'm easy because, I like to read. And so for me, and Kindle Unlimited, I kind of tore up my Kindle account in the sense that I probably read, a lot of books. My lawn looks great. Um, Replanted some plants. Waxed my wife's car. I mean, there's a lot of little nitpicky things that I would have never done that I got to do. And, bought a Cajun cookbook, made some of the best etouffee I ever had.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that sheltering in place really positive. I got to know my neighbors a heck of a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And our neighborhood has really kind of flourished with this. The only thing that's kind of a little irritating is people seem to have forgotten what a sidewalk is. Everybody's walking down the middle of the streets here, and it's kind of weird. So there are baby carriages in the middle of the street, and I'm like, aren't you kind of concerned that no, there's nobody's driving.
Right.
And so in that respect, it's kind of weird. It's kind of good, but negatively, I think that, because I'm the one that does the shopping, you go to the grocery store, it's not pretty. And I think that's kind of a little scary. I think the other thing is that this country is very good about saying one thing and doing another. Mm-hmm. And so every time and this is the cynic in me, every time I hear, we're all in this together, it translates to every man and woman for themselves.
Right?
In my head, right there.
As soon as they say, I just imagine everyone running off in every direction.
It's that same old thing. If it's not personal, it's personal. If it's not about the money, it's about the money. Mm. And so whenever they say something like, they're all this together, I go, because I think at the end of this actually really does get out of control. I mean, the president will be in a bunker, and so will most of Congress. All the rich people will go wherever they're going to go to hide. And most of the rest of the country will be left to deal with this. I mean, this was a real scare when HIV was looming. I thought they were really going to take all those people and put them someplace, almost like a concentration camp. Mm. And I think had it not been for rich gay males, they probably would have done it. But they just had too much political power to do it. Because remember, they cut off your insurance at the beginning if you turned HIV positive. Mm-hmm. And they got away with it. So this is going to be something that the 1%ers, they're going to get through this. It's the other 95 to 97%. This is going to be a little dicey. Because they're already talking about more African Americans die, and they're trying to blame it on vitamin D deficiency, and they're coming up with all these things. I mean, realistically, Black people don't run the hospitals anyway, unless they're in really bad shape. So, so I just think the virus itself is dangerous, but the political things surrounding it and how they're handling it, it's way more dangerous than that virus is.
Right.
The virus is simple. If you live, you don't. But all the rest of the stuff that they're complicating people's lives with people losing their jobs, and that could be death. Some people just don't do well without social interaction. Yeah. That could do some damage. So it to me, I kind of look at it probably a little different than other people.
Yeah, that's true. I'm all thinking about what he's saying. I'm not even. Wow.
Have you lived anywhere else in the world?
Have I what?
Lived anywhere else in the world besides California?
Well, military brat. Born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Moved back to Omaha, Nebraska with my parents. Then moved to Ohio, where someone very close to you was born. Then after Ohio, the family had a choice between Germany or California. And they chose California. So we ended up in Fairfield, California, Travis Air Force Base, which is about 75 miles north of San Francisco. Then the family, my father decided that he wanted to continue his medical education. So we moved to Pasadena. We lived in Pasadena for 4 years. And have it be told, my allergies were so bad that we moved back to Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I was told some of that was on me. But so we moved to Oakland, California. Some grade school, some high school. Then Hanover, New Hampshire for 2.5 years. A year in Atlanta, Georgia at Morehouse. Back to New Hampshire. 6 months in Brooklyn, New York. Then Washington, D.C. for 8 years. Muncie, Indiana for the longest year of my life. And then Chicago, Illinois. Love Chicago. And I was told by my mother I had to come home. And I asked where home was, and she said within 20 minutes of me. So I moved back to Oakland and lived in Oakland, did a little bit in Hayward, met the woman I married, and I became the 5th Black person in San Mateo. No, I'm joking, but it feels like it. So been to every state except for Alaska. And that includes the 51st state, and that's Puerto Rico.
You've been to the Dakotas?
Yeah.
Man, how did you beat me?
I drove a lot more than you did.
Oh, dude.
I mean, I've driven across country 14 times.
14?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you out. Oh, I didn't know you outdid me.
Yeah, you made it seem as if.
Well, I know.
No, your mother can drive. Just don't let her eat, but she can drive. but no, I mean, and so a couple of those trips back, I didn't have a time constraint. And so I took I-90.
Got it.
And so and I at least wanted to make sure that I had set foot in every state I could.
Yeah.
And it's, and I have this this is going to sound like the weirdest thing in the world, but it's almost like I can't get lost in this country.
Mm.
Now, I went to Singapore and I was lost in 2 seconds flat.
Mm-hmm.
And never got a sense for Western Africa. Never got a sense for Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But on this continent, I kind of know where I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you wish for? What do you wish for out of this world?
Black people to start loving Black people more. Because then everything, to me, my professor at Dartmouth, Black man, Ray Hall, sociology, he told me this, we were playing ping pong. He was a really good ping pong player. He said, you teach people how you want to be treated. And he goes, you don't have to tell them, just show them how you want to be treated. And it always resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when I say I want Black people to love Black people, we say it, but we don't always do it. And so when you look at the way other people treat us, they treat us, unfortunately, the way we treat ourselves. I mean, Black on Black crime. Why do Black people kill Black people? 1, because they can get away with it. 2, proximity. 3, the other people aren't going to chase you around for killing a Black person. And so it's kind of ingrained in us that we could treat each other poorly because no one else is going to care. And so I am totally behind the Black Lives Matter, but we're talking to the wrong people. We should be talking to ourselves. not those other people. Because we fix that. We fix them. I agree this is something that came from slavery. But how many years have we had to keep blaming that and not fixing that? Because you're not gonna, I'll put it to you like this. There's prejudice and there's racism. Do you know the difference?
Well, I do. You know how I feel. We do.
Do you know the difference, Ash? Okay, so prejudice is this. Prejudice is treating someone different by the way they act, their religion, whatever little thing you want to drag up.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Racism is the institutionalization of prejudice. So, case in point, right now, sitting in this room, I can be as prejudiced as I want to be. But since I'm not infecting anyone or creating a system of prejudice, I cannot be a racist. Now, if I'm running a company and I'm prejudiced and I let those prejudicial attitudes filter into my business practices, I could be a racist. So whenever you see all these people running around here talking about, hey, they're racist, they're racist, most of them probably aren't. They may be prejudiced,
correct,
but they're not racist.
Correct.
And this is the thing that when you start trying to attack this animal, you can't kill prejudice.
No.
You can't.
Nope.
You can do something about racism, but you can't kill prejudice. So attacking all these people other than us for how they say or act, and it's not an established system where their prejudicial attitudes can change your life or world, it's ridiculous. You're not going to do it. You can't change people like that. I mean, and it's not just this. Pick any country you want.
Correct. There's a system.
But what you can do is you can try to level the playing field as far as policies and practices. That's the only effect you have. And that's why, this movement is kind of willy-nilly to me, because what's the goal?
Right.
Nobody's ever spoken a goal. So far, the only thing I see is beating up on white people, which, although it may be entertaining, that's not going to fix anything. Making them feel guilty or second-guessing everything they do, it's ridiculous. All you're going to do is tick them off. Plus, it's not totally their problem. Name a problem name any problem that doesn't have two sides to it. Name any interaction between any two human beings where both of them are not, one of them is not complicit in whatever interaction goes on. It's a two-sided street. And you can't make them. You can't make anybody say, I'm going to start thinking differently about you. You're right. Get 5 minutes outside the door. And they go right back to what they were. And that part I'm not trying to fix. I'm not trying to get in somebody's head. But what I would like to see, like I said, is the practices, the driving while black, all those kind of things where it's an unwritten rule. I'd like to see those go away. But I don't think people can't stop being. I mean, I know I'm a prejudiced person. I mean, I actually got in trouble at Dartmouth. We were having a meeting with the student body, and there was some racial issues going on. And they said, who in this room is prejudiced? And I stood up and I said, I am. And I'm the only one that stood up. And a room full of almost 1,000 people. And when I got asked later, well, why'd you say that? I said, I don't talk to liars. That's what I told this young lady. She goes, what do you mean? I said, do you think I'm really the only prejudiced person in that room? So you're all liars. And I walked away. I did get a lot of room on campus after that because nobody would come near me. But that's what I want. I want Black people to love Black people like they said, like our song.
Right.
Oh, speaking of that, do you really think some of the rap music influences how other people think about us?
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like they're also given this space to influence people like
exactly. Why do you think so many rappers that don't curse, don't call women horrible things, don't talk about shooting people, they can't get a record contract?
that? Right.
But show up with a Glock and a couple of tats, record contract, you know. But who's pushing that?
Well, you know.
Yeah, and so
There's an inner, you know, and we keep, but there's such a there's a dark, I don't even like the word dark. There's a heavy negative influence, and I believe that across any form of music, any form of anything, whether it's poetry, whatever it is, that is instilling some form of self-hatred or hatred.
divisiveness.
Correct. And so if and the goal there is that you're repeating it.
Right.
So
exactly.
you're repeating it. So then you are imprinting it. You are branding it into your soul. And, you know, it's the same, you don't hear a song for 20 years. And then if you like that song, you can pick up, and then not to mention the fact of the emotion that goes with it. So then there's other spiritual energy that moves even further around, even the beats of the songs. Even, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And, you know, and there is a point in which, you know, it's funny. I looked at my own record sort of collection, and of course it's not a record collection, but I know that just sounded so ridiculous as soon as it came out.
Court, I think the word you're looking for is subconscious.
Well, no, but not even, but correct. But what I did is it's probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I got rid of all the really codependent songs. Like when I was going through my divorce, I realized there were all these really codependent songs. Like, I can do it better. I can, you know, all these songs where it was like, I'll lay on the ground and do whatever it takes, no matter how you treat me, baby. I went through those and was like, swoop, I got rid of all those. Then from there, and then any of the really negative songs, got rid of those. So all the songs I listen to are all pretty much like, you know, they're all saving the world songs. They're all like, but for me, it is going to your point. And it is all those things in a very, not a very perfect storm, in a very deliberate storm, that if in someone's circle in a day, that there are all these touch points that are just negative reinforcement all day long. And so, and to your point, in you know, of which I agree, is if you're getting all these touch points all along the way in a circular,
self-feeding,
then it's the reason why there are so many relationships that don't go well. It's even and all of them, you know, a lot of them, but especially ours. So then, or if the paradigm is, this is what a relationship should look like, but then people don't have the means to maintain that type of a relationship. And so then they're told constantly, well, if you can't do this, so then both happens for the man and the woman. There's all this reinforcement that just keeps happening versus just the core concept of, look, I love myself and I'm just trying to do the best I can today. And tomorrow I'd like to do a little bit better and I may not, you know, but that does not get conveyed.
No.
And that's ugly. And that is ugly. And that right there,
that's
a toppling.
Yeah, so that's really, in essence, and I guess this is gonna sound like really weird, and I try to treat all my presidents equally, although the current one makes that really, really difficult. But Barack Obama, I used to love watching him talk. And the reason I did is because he's truly an African American. His touch buttons his sensitive buttons are in the wrong places. And if you remember during his first term, they were doing ridiculous things to try to see if they could make him react. He never did. I mean, I just sat there and I was going, man, this guy is something else, you know. And he taught me so much by never directly talking to me, by just how he handled things. And he made me take another step back from the person that I really have been trying to get rid of, and that's the angry black man. You know, and like I always tell people, I'm a child of Malcolm X. But I'm a child of Malcolm X after he got back from Mecca. I understand the first part of his journey, but I really love the last part of his journey. And that's probably why I speak the way I do. Yes, I am angry about some of the things that happen in this country. But between Barack Obama and Malcolm X, I kind of sit back and I go, can you fix it? And this is going to sound like weird things because they're talking about, you know, everybody should go out and go talk to a black person today. I feel like Stevie Wonder should be singing that. You know, talk to your black person today, you know. But the guys I play golf with, we have a standing rule that if you want to talk about racial issues with me, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I'm not going to get mad. And I'd like to think I moved a group of about 100 guys down the line a lot. Because, I mean, it was stupid. Why do black people do, I mean, I would get these really seemingly asinine questions. But then I realized that they really didn't know any about me. And we don't really talk, you know, we got the inside the group discussion, otherwise known as the kitchen, you know, cabinet, not as in a cabinet, as in this is our think tank is like, like at our house, it was in the kitchen. And we talk all these things about other groups of people. But when those other groups of people were around, we weren't honest enough with them to say, A, what we really felt, B, anything to help them understand our situation better. And so that's something that's what Barack Obama was trying to do. That's what Malcolm X was trying to do, get some understanding here. And I learned a lot about myself talking to these white people about black people. And because before you start shooting off your mouth, you have to kind of process. Why do we do that? Or sometimes just flat out admit, you know, I don't know why we do that. But I said, but we do it. And they go, it doesn't make any sense. And I go, I agree. I don't know why we do it. And I think you two of you probably come across this a lot, where you're talking to someone who isn't blind and trying to explain us. And since we're not a monolithic population, that makes that explanation even more difficult, because now you got regions, and I just, it's just something that, I don't know, more and more I just study us, because I want it to make sense, and I mean, I was lucky. I got to meet a guy who was born in 1900. If you called him black, he'd punch you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And his view of the world was very interesting.
Okay. I'm gonna go get it.
And so I got a chance to have 4 generations of their views of the world. And now I got you, so I guess I got 5. So it's your generation ain't gonna fix it either. Okay?
Yeah, I know.
So, but maybe the groundswell of what's going on now may change a little bit. I'm not too sure. Americans' memories are too short. We have very short memories.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So, let's see, anything else?
We were short memories.
Try not, this is gonna sound like a real weird thing, but I guess if I could wish something for myself, because I put myself back on a 3-second delay. Like when something goes, there's a situation that doesn't go the way I would like. Before I say or do anything,
give yourself
3-second delay. And I had to put myself on that when I was in graduate school. But I'm back on it again because, and yeah, I'm a little better because what happens is, it used to be you could see my face that I'm holding something in. Now I can just kind of go, and then kind of go, and then I'll answer. But it would be nice if I didn't have to use that, but I do.
Right.
And maybe some other people should try it, because usually it's the first sentence that gets you.
Right.
Or it's your first action that gets you. And then you wish you could just take it all back. And just like golf, there's no do-overs.
Right. But I feel like people that first question is so charged because people are trying to rock the boat. I have a lot of, because of what's going on now, whenever I do come into contact with people who are not of the same racial background as me, like they either approach me very cautiously or they approach me with like, as if there's nothing going on, as if they're just in a bubble and they were only existing and the world doesn't exist. And I have to like find myself and give myself the space to just allow them to be them so that they don't affect me, so I don't play into their game. But it's hard because at first you're just like they're being them, but it is a like natural game that just people play that we've all been kind of sort of taught to play.
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, you're over 6 feet tall. And for some reason, there's this fallacy that large black men they're bulletproof. Obviously, no. They can beat up 20 non-black people, drop of a hat.
Right.
Not true.
Right. Well, I hadn't seen that one. It's the weirdest thing ever. they'll put us in jail to do all this stuff. Like we're the most dangerous thing walking. And we're just getting just between ourselves, hurting ourselves. We just get, and I don't understand where this stereotype came from. Like, you know, oh, black guy, he's tough. You're right. Yeah, and I think between the three of us, we know a lot of black males. And I don't think anybody's beating anybody up. I mean, realistically, I'd be more scared of Bruce Lee than most of the black guys I know. If Bruce Lee's walking down the street, I'm scared. Just in case Bruce decides he wants to go off. Came from, you know. And so it's something that it's a stereotype that, you know, that these, you know, a lot of officers of the law carry, whether they be black or not. Because a lot of the black officers, scariest thing to me is a black officer and a non-black officer as a pair. I'm scared of the black guy.
Right. Right.
You know, and you would think that female police officers would be the #1 shooters of any large male. When's the last, have you ever heard of a female police officer shooting a black guy?
Well, there was one recently.
Yeah.
There was one recently. Okay, finally. You know, because I'm sitting there going, you think they would be #1, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because stereotype, generally put, they can't kick most guys' butts. You think they'd be shooting guys all over the place, but they don't. So, you know, so there's a lot of weird stuff in our country that, you know, you just kind of just look at and go, it's totally stereotypical. It's falsified information. And as you said, Ash, people don't really want to look at it that for what it is, because they might have to make a change.
Right.
Why would you want to do that? We got it just the way they like it. So.
Well, and there's, you know, what makes this whole thing, I don't want to use, you know, but what makes this whole thing complicated, there's too many things happening at once.
Yep.
And so, and I'll say in this movement that the concept is that it will just get reduced down to racism, but there's so many things at play here. And
exactly.
And a lot of things that people don't realize is, you know, narcissistic, rich people are the same around the world.
Exactly.
So narcissistic, rich people who have some form of an institution to keep money from flowing out to others exists in every country. So there's that.
And the only people they like are other narcissists. They don't even like themselves.
And so, right. So now, so it's hard to, I'm not gonna say it's hard. I just think, I mean, there's this prejudice, there's this power, there's some racism, and there's some stereotypes, but a lot of the people that are even enforcing the system aren't even touching the money. So part of what Black people want, or disenfranchised people, but I'm gonna say specifically Black, is there's an access point. There is, don't keep things from me, don't kill me, and don't keep opportunities from me.
That's the racism part.
Correct. And those things are happening from different institute. Sometimes those collide, but sometimes those are happening from different places. And that part is, and then there are just the muddled together regular person. I don't want to call anybody average, just the average, you know, regular human that's out there in the middle of America who could have never met a Black person. And we've interviewed a lot of people now. We've had some Black people on here say they didn't see any white people for 10 years. So, you know, if you go to India, I mean, they're staring at you sideways. They're like, are you kidding? Like, what can you be? Because for some, they never seen anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the only people they've seen are Will Smith or the criminal.
Right.
And so, and then when you look at it from that perspective, then you got to get that that's getting permeated around the world, which means it's for sure being born in many places here. And so I don't know, like I hear some people speaking and they want to simplify this thing. And
no.
and the bottom line of it all, power is power.
Well,
And
I will say this, after spending that time up in Dartmouth, and I ran, and the Rockefellers were there, Judy Block, her dad was H, her uncles are. I mean, there's some really powerful offspring, or rich offspring, I won't say powerful, offspring of some very rich people. And it took a while, but I can honestly say most of those people are absolutely some of the nicest people you ever meet. And you know how you used to get that kind of prejudicial it's a stink, you can almost smell it on people? They didn't have it at all. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that you've got to separate out some of those really, really wealthy people as possibly being racist. But like you said, take like Buffett. That guy doesn't give off a stink of anything, right? But the people in his company may act completely different. And so even though they own a lot of these things, I think that they're not in control of the practices of the companies that they own. I mean, because I don't, it sounds like a weird thing, but after meeting all those people who, are going to inherit all these empires, and I sat there and they go, will they change anything? And they probably don't, because they're making a ton of money. But I don't think all really, really, really rich people are narcissists.
no. And when I made that comment, I was talking about a very finite.
Yeah.
But,
but I would just sit there and say, just like I tell the guys up at the golf course, I said, you know what your best bet is with Black people? And they go, what? I said, why don't you just take it one by one? Why make an assumption that you know anything about them just because what they look like? I said, because you know what that smells like. And they go, racist. I said, exactly. So why don't you just take it one by one? See, then guess what? And they go, what? You get the surprise of meeting a totally new individual. And I never thought about it like that. I said, look, you didn't walk up to Richie Piazza and go, well, he's Sicilian, therefore he's in the mafia. He's going to eat pizzas all day. And, and he owns a restaurant. Well, I didn't think about him like that. I said, why do you think about Black people like that? Why are you making that assumption?
But there was a time they didn't. On a lot of that.
It's like this. Do you know what term I really hate too? And here's my statement, Black doctor equals Black quarterback. Translation. It took 25 years for people to stop saying Black quarterback after the first Black quarterback in the NFL.
Right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Right. Right. It was such a rarity.
Right, because
that we had to put a color on the front of it.
Right.
Yeah. Then they go, well, you're a Black doctor. And they go, yeah, and I graduated with 123 other Black doctors. Huh? Yeah. All in one day. At one school. Gee, I wonder what happened at the other schools. And they go, okay, I get it. I go, thank you. And, but that's his country, You know, that kind of sums it up. Every time I hear, you know, and we're the worst. When I was working at Kaiser, well, I wanted my son to see you because you're Black. How about I'm good? I hadn't heard I'm good. Well, actually, I didn't ask. And I'm going, you know, I had to walk out of the room for a second. Excuse me for a second. I had to walk out of the room, walk in my office, sit down for a few minutes and think about that. You know,
Well,
she picked her doctor just on skin color.
well, but then the converse of that is that, and again, the converse of that are individuals who then have other prejudices in their mind that they bring up, that rather we're not going to take care of ourselves anyway, that we have a higher tolerance of pain, like all the other bull crap that people make up in their mind that then gets subliminally and overtly passed along through your physician as they decide the level of care that they're going to give someone. And so then for a lot of Black people, they're hoping that as they walk in that door, that they're going to get a
fair shake.
A fair shake,
right?
Hopefully better from the Black person, because they're already in a situation where they are not empowered about the information that they know, because that's why you go to a specialist. You go because there's
and I totally get that. I mean, oh, one last, because I know you guys are up against it. One last story from Kaiser. And this one's interesting. I was taught, Chief calls me in. And he goes, yeah, you've been getting a lot of complaints. I said, yeah, have you read them? And he goes, well, a lot of them don't really make any sense at all. And I go, well, they do if you put a word in there. And he goes, what's that word? I go, you could go prejudice, you could go racist. Let's go with prejudice. And he goes, you really think that? And I go, okay. In this world, in this country, I said, many of the things that happen in society that don't make any sense, there's usually an emotional attachment to it.
correct.
He goes, okay. And I go, the emotional attachment usually has a prejudice taint to it. And then he goes, yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
Or
goes,
victim taint, whatever it is, you know.
So then he says the most interesting thing. He goes, well, we can send you to we can get some counseling on that. I go, for who? He goes, for you. I go, I'm not the one that's prejudiced. You're gonna send all my patients to counseling? And he kind of looked at me, he goes, it's not me. But that was their solution. They were gonna send me to counseling because they were being prejudicial. And like I could do something to not be Black for the 10 minutes or 15 minutes there in that office. I mean, it was, I had a patient complain, send in a complaint 2 years after he saw me. And his complaint was, he went and saw this other doctor who prescribed him the same medicine I'd asked him to take, and he refused. And the chief was going, we talked about, I said, go through his medical chart. Go to his visits with me. He goes, how many times I asked him to take that certain medicine? He goes, like 3 times. And he goes, and he sends a complaint in 2 years after he sees me? And he goes, that is a bit strange. A bit strange. And I just sat there, I just shook my head. I was just like, okay, fine. All right, you know, this is how it's gonna be. Mm-hmm. But that's the kind of stuff that, you know, it just happens. Because remember,
there's just some, you know, and you brought up a point. I mean, there's some things it's, do you want, you know, some people want understanding. Some people want, you know, equal opportunity. Some people want access to the same exact money and the same sidebar tricks and the same, backdoor conversations. I mean, people, they're different. People want different things. But one thing that is unilateral is people want to stop being killed.
Yeah. But it cracks me up though, is that part of the offenders, part of the prejudicial people, the non-Black part of this are the people who are kind of sitting in judgment on what is and what is not prejudice or racism. That's always part that kills me about this whole situation. I've always kind of sat there. It's like asking the crook, did you commit a crime? No, that wasn't a crime. It was just sitting there. And it just, that part is the part that's going to have to change too. But I'm not really waiting on that one at all.
Yeah, well, that's human. That's a lot of other.
Any other questions?
What is something that you hadn't noticed that your father taught you, but that you have really benefited from now, later on in life?
I'm gonna go mom and dad because there's two distinct lessons. Dad's the one who basically taught me, don't give up. Don't give up. That was probably his biggest lesson to me. And when I was at Dartmouth, there was a time I wanted to just come home. And I was tired of all that. And he just sat there. And my father's not a phone person at all. And we had maybe 4 phone conversations while I was in college. And this was the first one. He goes, are you going to let those people beat you? And that was the last thing he said. And then mom's lesson. We were living in Pasadena. I was in the driveway playing with my Hot Wheels set. Now we were the only Black family in the neighborhood. And I ain't kidding. We're talking like 8 square blocks of the neighborhood, only Black family. White kid comes down the street, runs over my Hot Wheels with his bike. I mean, he comes up in the driveway and runs over Hot Wheels. I snap. Right? Run, stick a Hot Wheel track through his spokes, his bike flips over, he's smashing the street. Now, mom had to remind me of this story. I'm up there smashing his kid's face in the pavement. And there's a pool of blood. And mom pulls up and goes, what are you doing? And every year we had to have this discussion about violence, about tempers, about things like that. That one probably helps me more than any of them because snap reaction, hit him in the face. That's, again, the 3-second rule. That's part of that is mom. So I don't do things like that. And I don't say things like that. And because, and she told me, she goes, it's only going to get you hurt by someone. She goes, at some point in time, you're going to run into somebody bigger than you or somebody who's better armed than you. And it's gonna happen. And it's all because you couldn't control yourself. But, as a kid, you go, but you start pointing all over the place about what everybody else did. And mom taught the other part of that lesson, I don't care what they do. And you shouldn't care what they do either. You should care about what I'm telling you and how you're going to handle yourself. And so those are the 2 biggest lessons I probably learned from my parents. 1, don't give up. 2, control yourself. And the control yourself part is tough. That's probably harder because again, Malcolm X, Barack Obama. I gotta keep saying that because it's something that, I remember I was so mad one day. I was just I just went back to my dorm room. I was crying. I was so mad, you know, and I didn't do anything. Although I got accused of pushing some guy down the steps, but I didn't touch him. You know, he got scared and ran. But I don't know. Those are two of the biggies, yeah. Let's see, what did I learn from my sister?
Uh-oh.
Okay, my older sister, she taught me basically, there are some people who don't bluff, and you need to figure out who they are very quickly. Because my older sister did not bluff. What have I learned from my younger sister? Probably, I would say the biggest thing I probably learned from her is, it's gonna sound like a weird thing. It's kind of more like, be yourself and be flexible. Believe it or not, your mother's been like this for a long, long time, even when she was a kid. So I'm not surprised that, you know, over the years, she's been able to do certain types of things. You know, Enid would have been straight arrow, Gennaro. She'd have gone straight arrow. I pretty much did straight arrow, but there was no way that Courtney was going to do straight arrow. Even though my father is like, oh God, can't she just do this? And I go, I don't think that's going to happen. And so yeah, you learn something from a lot of people. I mean, I tried to be more flexible because, as your mother would tell you, I can be quite inflexible. And that's something something else that I work on, where I'm trying to just be a little more flexible about things. And it's actually given me a lot of inner peace on that one, because you just learn to kind of say, hey, if that's what you want to do it, it's not going to hurt them, hey, let it go. You know, or in other times, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean I got to do it, especially if it's dumb. But so anything else?
No.
Love you both.
Love you too. You can't get off though. You got to look in the camera and say, I love myself.
Huh?
I know.
What? I said I love you both.
I know. I know you love me. I know you love Osh. You have to look in the camera and say to yourself, I love myself.
I'm getting there. I like me a lot.
Okay.
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 mean, there's some times I really don't like me, but yeah, but I like me a lot.
We love it.
Yeah. And it's okay. You're not supposed to, you don't have to love you. I mean, you don't have to like yourself every day or every second. This still doesn't mean you don't.
Good, because I'd be getting a D.
That doesn't mean that you don't love yourself.
Yeah, well, let's just put it like this. I have not met my expectations for myself. And I don't think my expectations are that high.
That's part of loving yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be the simplest way to put it.
Okay.
Other than that, I got to figure out what I'm going to make for dinner.
All right. You good? All right. I love you very much and thank you.
Love you. I love you.
I love you.
All right.
All right.
So how long is that going to get?
Maybe here.
Have you ever seen Living Color, the band?
No.
You might want to Google them. The lead singer had a braid almost down to his butt.
Wow.
Okay. So don't leave, David. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Coming into Grace, knowing who we are and loving ourselves for it. Be well.
Yeah, all right.